Now, record starts. All right, good morning sa inyong lahat. It's 8:01. There are 26 students on board. Okay, let's start. Since I have already introduced ourselves last week, so we will proceed right away sa ating lecture. Our topic for today is growth and development of agriculture. So this is a brief historical development of the world agriculture and the Philippine agriculture. So historical, we will go back a couple of thousand years ago. Ito trace back natin. During the early civilization, what happened to agriculture and humanity? So this is a history of agriculture, the prehistory, no? Talagang ito'y lumang-luma na, no? History na prepa. So for most of our existence, humans were hunter-gatherers. No? Itong term na itong hunter-gatherers, ina-associate ito doon sa kanilang practice ng pamumuhay. Hunter ng mga animals na marami noon. Ano? And gatherers ng kanilang mga kakainin, kung may makukuha mga prutas at ano pa mang freely growing sa kanilang madaanan, yun ang kanilang pagkain. That's why they are called hunter-gatherers. This means that people live a nomadic lifestyle. Yung term na nomadic ay, ang definition niyan, sila ay walang permanenteng tirahan. No? Sila ay gala lang ng gala. Meaning, they kept on moving from one place to another. Nagsesettle sila ng saglit tapos aalis ulit. Moving with the season to follow the food supply. Kasi ang kanilang basihan dyan, kapag ka na-deplete na, nauubos na yung makukuha nilang pagkain, doon sa isang lugar, they will move to another place. At doon naman sila maghanap ng pagkain. So, nagkaroon ng constant movement ang kanilang buhay. No? And then as the glaciers retreated and plant life patterns and growth areas changed in response, itong sinasabing glaciers, ito'y panahon noong Ice Age kung tawagin. Kung napanood niyo yung movie na Ice Age, merong sinasabi sa panahon ng ating civilization na ang mundo ay nakaranas ng ng sobrang taglamig because of what you call yung glacier nga. Ang glacier kasi yan ay mga yelo, malalaking yelo yan. No? At umunti naman yung volume niyan. That's why nagtawan na yung mga landmass. No? So nagkaroon ng growth area sa mga halaman at doon nagbago ang pamumuhay ng mga tao. It meant that the need to move so open become slightly less essential. Unti-unting nabawasan yung kanilang ginagawa na palipat-lipat ng tirahan. Though, sabi rito, though undoubtedly the lifestyle carried on for thousands of years as people sought to maximize their resource acquisitions. Matagal na panahon yan, thousands of years na ganun ang kanilang gawain. Nomadic, hunter-gatherers. Societies would have known which crops were best to exploit with each season. Di sila nagtatanim noon, very rich pa ng palibot, ng ecosystem. More than enough para makonsume nila. So kahit saan sila pumunta, they would always find something to eat, something to hunt. Kaya walang problema sa food supply, don't have to worry. Kailangan lang nila ay skills sa paghahunt, pangunguhan ng makakain. But dumating daw yung panahon, hindi lang ma-determine ang eksaktong panahon, na sila ay nagsettle na rin, natutuhan na nilang magsettle sa isang lugar, no? The hunter-gatherer moniker can be a misnomer. Ibig sabihin, hindi saktong-saktong ganyan talaga. As it is believed today that nomadic communities didn't suddenly just decide one day to stop moving and to set up permanent settlements, though the reason for the transition have been explored in great deal and is still not settled. Pinapag-aralan to ng mga scientists, mga researcher na paano hindi nila gaanong ma-determine paano nag-stop ang mga tao noon ng kanilang nomadic lifestyle at bigla na lamang silang nag-stay sa isang lugar at doon na sila nag-grow ng kanilang mga kakailanganin. No? It is likely that some degree of semi-nomadic lifestyle, paunti-unti din naman, semi muna, no? Develop where people simply set up camps, no? Siguro kubo, whatever na protection or shield, siguro mga tent, no? For several years at a time, cordoning off areas of wild crops that had the most abundant resources. So nakakatagpo sila ng mga lugar na talagang yung mga crops ay present na roon. So doon na sila nanirahan for a long period of time. It is also likely that they had heard of livestock that they took with them whenever or wherever they moved, keeping them secure to exploit for milk, meat, for yung balat ng mga hayop, and other resources. The need to protect stores of food for the next season may also have played a part. So ngayon, yung dati hinahunt nilang mga hayop ay natutunan na daw nilang paamuin, nakakapag-alaga na rin sila. Archaeologists and paleontologists have traced the origins of farming to around 10,000 years ago. That's a long time, no? To somewhere in Indus Valley. Indus Valley, dito sa mapa na ito, andun siya, yung kulay pink, because there's the Indus River. So ang Indus refers now to India, no? Yung pink na yun. Doon daw malamang nagsimula, and possibly as part of separate development, meron din sa isang lugar, yung sa China naman, along the Yangtze River, yung nakita niyong maliit na kulay dilaw doon sa kanan, that's part of China, at Changjiang. It is known that humans first domesticated crops. Sabi nauna daw, no? Pero let us not debate kung alin ang nauna. Not so important kung alin ang nauna. Domesticated crops and later livestock in great enough numbers to recognize the sign of deliberate exploitation. So dati nga mga wild, no? At ngayon sa tagal natutuhan na nilang alagaan itong mga hayop na ito. So that hindi na sila pupunta, maghahanap pa ng mga hayop na yan because yan, alagaan lang, nanganak, dumami. So ayan, may reason na sila not to move around kasi meron na silang stock of food, even itong mga crops, no? They probably have learned that yung mga bunga pala ay pwedeng maging bagong halaman. So early civilization can be considered a boom time in agricultural science and technology around 55 or 5,500 BC. The Sumerian civilization of the Middle East and other early pre-Roman civilizations understood the need for specialized agricultural workforce for their societies to thrive. So nagsisimula na ngayon, so moving forward na tayo, hindi na ito yung hunter-gatherers, ito ay meron ng mga civilization, nakita nilang kailangan na ng may mga trabahador sa lupa, sa pagtatanim. Workforce ang tawag natin. No? The Middle East continued to see much innovation in the agricultural industries. If you are reading the Old Testament, puro doon ang mga nire-refer na mga places sa Bible, sa Old Testament, ay mga lugar yan sa yung Arab countries. The Arab Agricultural Revolution started on that period. This was thanks to the diversity of the local topographies, the crops grown in the Middle East and Indus Valley. Yung Indus Valley, as I mentioned, nasa India, that European societies coveted. Yan. Gustong-gustong makuha ng mga European. No? That's why India became a long-time country na nasakop ng European countries. No? And later acted as a trade bridge between the Far East and Europe. No, naging mga yan, sakop ng mga Europeans. Now, let's move forward to the Americas. No? Pag sinabing Americas during that time, hindi USA lang yan. No? Kaya yung merong North America, may South America. The South Americans, ito yung mga Latino, yung mga Mexicano. Pero yung North Americans ay sinasabi niya ng US and including ang Canada. Yan. When we look at the southwestern states, particularly Arizona and New Mexico, we see agriculture on an industrial scale, especially the cultivation of maize crops. By the way, maize is also known as corn. Yan siguro kinuha yung ating Tagalog word na mais, sa word na maize, that were introduced from modern Mexico. The rest of Mesoamerica and beyond. Mesoamerica. So they're talking about the present USA, Mexican, ngayon, present world, magkakatabi yan, neighbors yan. It is likely that agriculture came to the North America relatively late, perhaps between 2,500 and 2,000 BC. By the way, ang pagbibilang ng BC, pabalik yan. Uuna yung 3,000, then you go down to 2,000, 1,000, and then you have the BC. Yun yung gitna. And then we start counting again to 1, 2, 3, up to the present time na 2,000. So, nagmula doon sa pinakamatandang na date, 10,000 BC. BC means, dalawang ibig sabihin yan, before Christ. Yung isa also known as BCE or before Common Era. Pareho lang yun. Yung point na yun, kaya siya before Christ, during that time kasi, minarkahan na yung pagkapanganak kay Jesus, kay Christ, yun ang naging 0. Yung bilang ng bago ipanganak si Kristo, yun yung BC. Yung after na siya ipanganak, yun ang AD or after death or Anno Domini. So we are now on the AD period after the death. With such civilization as and we see it extensively with such civilization as the Hohokam, the Anasazi, and ancient pueblos. Yung pueblos ay Spanish word for town, possibly developing in Mesoamerica around 6,000 BC. So mas matanda yan, with the domestication of corn or maize. Importante pala yung corn na yan. And according to statistics, is still the largest producing nation or country ng maize or corn is still USA as of now. Modern farming. So now, we go to the modern farming. Iwanan na natin yung mga BC. Now we go to the modern farming began around 18th century. So moving forward tayo in what is generally referred to as the British Agricultural Revolution, when several advances and changes were made to farming in a short space of time that saw massive increase in yield and a more efficient process. The 3-field crop rotation system was replaced with 4-field system and sweeping enclosure acts regulated land management. Selective crossbreeding began on an industrial scale to increase crop size as well as yield, creating several cultivars in the process. So dito ay boom na ang agriculture dahil nagsisimula na ang pag mix match nila, crossbreeding ng hayop at saka ng halaman, at nagsimula na makapag-produce sila noong mga cultivars kung tawagin or varieties na high yielding. Even ang mga hayop sa kakocross nakaka-develop sila noong bigger and more productive. It is said that these changes permitted the industrial revolution and even greater concentration of urban development fueling the empire. So ngayon, imagine natin, analyze natin, marami ng pagkain, marami na rin tao, at nagkaroon na ng urban development, fueling the empire. Bakit ito naging empire? Kung manonood kayo ng mga YouTube, mga istorya ng mga empires, nagsisimula yan ng pag-i-establish ng isang syudad until malaki na siya, marami na siyang tao, at ang una niyang pinaparami na kanyang mga army. So ngayon, wala pang mga gaanong countries noon na katulad niya, hindi pa ngayon kasing dami. Minsan mga tribes lang, lalo yan sa Middle East. At itong mga naunang nag-establish ng kanilang mga cities, ay mayroong pangarap na kinakailangang palawakin natin ang ating nasasakupan. So they started annexing yung mga neighboring places, towns, mga established cities, that is through wars, gera. Medyo yung masakit doon, Para mo masakop ang isang lugar, you have to take it by force. No less than the Bible, the Old Testament, has chronicled a lot of wars, kung saan during the time of Christ, ang Israel noon ay under the Roman rule, Hindi pa nga Israel ang kanyang official name kasi Israel, the nation of Israel only started as a legal nation noong panahon ng 1948. Bago-bago lang siya. Pero matatanda na yung mga history na yon, They are not known yet as Israel, or minsan nire-refer sila as Israelites. Kaya lang wala silang sariling lugar. Paikot-ikot din sila for 40 years. Wala silang sariling lugar. And then we go now again sa modern farming. The next changes would not be until the war years. Yun minimension kanina. Gera-gera, when the military powers developed and needed with rationing, intensive farming. Kasi nga, empires, ang kanilang goal ay sakupin ang lahat ng known, lahat ng nalalaman nilang lugar na mayroong population, gusto nilang masakop under their rules. That's why nagkaroon ng mga Roman empires, ng mga sari-sari, and even the Greeks, at they are doing that for so long. At ngayon, dahil ang empire or the emperor has the power over the population, wala kang magagawa if you are recruited as an army. So kung may army ka, hindi naman yan nagpa-farming, talagang they are ready for whatever na kanilang iuutos sa kanila. They go to war at kinakailangan nila ng supplies, kinakailangan nila ng pagkain. Some of the reason kung bakit ang iba na mga intention na pumunta sa malalayong lugar ay hindi sila makalayo because kinakailangan mayroon silang logistics, kinakailangan may supply ng food. That's why kasama sa planning, kaya biglang nagkaroon ng malaking demand sa production ng food because of those things like a great number of army. No? So allowed greater access to food much more cheaply. Yet for some, the environment has paid a price that some agricultural scientists have tried to address. Noong kukumpara natin yung hunter-gatherers, ng mga nomadic pa sila, there were no problems with the land and the produce and the plants and the animals because kukonti ang tao. Pero nitong nagkaroon na ng slowly ng modern world, dumami ng population, then suddenly there was a need na magkaroon ng larger production ng land and animals. Let's look at the ecological age. The word sustainability, malimit na rin yan. You call it buzzword. Sustainability, paano bang yung nararanasan natin ngayon, yung nakikita natin ngayon, yung ating what we have today, dapat yan aabutan pa ng inyong apo. Sustainability, kinakailangang mabubuhay pa rin. Today, as we look to balance several conflicting needs to protect the environment and to instigate practices that protects it while providing for the growing needs of the future population. So kayo naman mga binata, dalaga pa, the word sustainability must be in your mind na kinakailangang yung inyong future children at mga apo would still enjoy what we are enjoying right now. That is sustainability. Today, our food supply feeds 7 billion people and there is still enough surplus for more going forward. Dahil nga modern na ang ating practices ngayon, sinasabi na kaya pa natin pakainin ng 7 billion people. We know, though, that some of these practices have had an adverse effect on the land. Too many trees are being cut down. Kita nyo yung higher ground na yon. Wala na masyadong puno. And soils are becoming exhausted. Sa kappa farm, nauubos na ang nutrients. And sa yung old practices, even sa Bible, minention yung i-farm mo lang ang lupa mo ng 6 years, yung ika-7 years, ipahinga mo. The soil need to recuperate. Kaya lang ngayon, wala nang pahipahinga kasi nga persado na kinakailangan mag-produce for livelihood at saka ang growing demand ng food. And soils are becoming exhausted quickly while destroying the ecosystem. So if you can imagine, itong small block na ito na nasa picture ngayon. There you have the source of water galing doon sa taas, papunta sa baba, supplying the urban areas. Yung urban areas ay mapapansin nyo dyan. Meron ng cities with high-rise building, may mga subdivision na urban, at saka may natira pang sa left side, mga pula ang bubong, ito yung mga rural communities. And there's also a place there para sa industrial, And kung mapapansin nyo, yung kulay blue, those are water reservoirs, Yan yung ating ecosystem. At mapapansin mo lang, may mga denuded areas na doon sa mga ibang lugar doon, probably representing trees that were cut down. Doon naman sa industrial zones, industrial areas, they were cleared of green areas. So bare na siya ngayon. At yan ay mapapansin natin na which is true, ganyan ang nangyayari sa ating kapaligiran ngayon. And then if you trace the color of the water from the higher ground, blue, meaning pa yan, fresh water pa siya. But as it flows down, nag-uunti-unti nang magbago ang kanyang kulay, meaning nakukontaminate na siya. Especially those yung dumaan doon sa tabi ng industrial estate. Some of the water goes to the farmlands. Ito, in between two residences, housing residences, merong farmlands dyan. And then eventually it goes to the sea. So yan yung representation doon sa far right. Ay may nakita ka rong small bodies of water, probably that represents the lake, no? Represented din yung mga denuded areas, yung supposed to be na mga high ground na forested areas, ay pansinin nyo at denuded na. This is a very good representation of what we have right now, this picture. Also, as ecological age, we are now hearing about agricultural biotechnology. Biotechnology, we are still agreeing on global standards and trying to redefine the parameters of what is agriculturally and ecologically sound, catering to our crops needs while not damaging it for future generation. Okay, merong discussions dito, no? Because ang biotechnology ay ina-alter ang traditional o natural composition ng isang halaman o hayop. No? Merong ethical debate na nangyayari dito sa biotechnology. Some claims na wala tayong magagawa if we do not use this modern technology, maiiwanan tayo ng demand for food, and ultimately there will not be enough food for the people. Magkakaroon ng hunger. After that hunger, pag-aagawan ng pagkain that could probably lead to wars. No? Marami pa rin mamamatay. So they sorted to engineering what is inside the plants and inside the animal, the natural composition itong dalawang ito. At marami tayong mga examples ngayon ng bioengineered products which are already in the market, no? From meat, even talong, even mais, no? Marami na yan. Dito na sa Pilipinas ay tinatawag nating bioengineered. Agricultural technology may possibly be on the verge of another revolution as biotech moves to the forefront of agricultural science. Ay nandito na, mayroon tayong agriculture 4.0. Yan na nga yung bagong agricultural revolution. Biotechnology, artificial intelligence, sinamahan na natin ng mga makabagong technology. Kaya nakoy na ngayon yung agriculture, Industrial Agriculture 4.0. Yan ang bagong revolution. So, yan, tapos natin yung brief history ng agriculture, tracing back. At I would like you to watch again yung aking kauna-unahang post noong pinakita sa inyo yung history naman. No? Mas detailed yun. Yung yung history ng ancient history. Panoorin niyo ulit. So hindi ko masyado ng binigyan ng too much emphasis because that was already explicitly explained on that video, yung 6 minutes video. Now let's look at the emergence of agriculture in the Philippines. This means by which agriculture expanded into the Philippines is argued by many different anthropologists. At alam niyo yung mga anthropologist ay ang pinagbabasihan niyan ay mga remains, mga natirang ebidensya, no? Minsan mga bato, minsan mga remains of animals or plants, and they have now the technology to determine anong panahon, may natatawag na mga carbon dating. Kailan itong bagay na ito, anong panahon meron ito. So, meron silang way to determine yung mga origins niya at saang panahon yan na-create. However, there are proxy indicators and other pieces of evidence that allow anthropologists to get an idea of when different crops reach the Philippines and how they may have gotten there. Rice is an important agricultural crop today in the Philippines. Sa mga anthropologists, yan pinag-aaralan kasi yung human race din ng mga anthropologists, taong nabuhay nung unang panahon. At kinoconnect nila paano sila nabuhay. So, pinapag-aralan nila yung food system, tradition, and then the evolution. So kaya dito pumapasok yung natitrace din ang history of agriculture. But there were some debates. Let us not dwell on that. Huwag na tayo sumama sa debate ng kailan. But some believe na hindi muna rice ang unang ginamit na pagkain, but rather yam. Ang yam ay pwedeng kamote at pwede ring ube, yung kulay blue. And taro. Taro is also known as gabi. Doon sa isang old village called Kiyangan, sa Ifugao, in an archaeological study conducted at Old Kiyangan village in Ifugao, archaeologists analyzed charred organic residue. Mantakin mo, sunog na ng mga residue from two earthenwares, mga palayok, shreds, at basag pa yung palayok, were analyzed in order to evaluate when rice agriculture, pinagdidebatehan, ang inaalam nila kailan ba nagsimula ang rice, as well as cooking rice, occurred in the Philippines, kailan nagsimula ang rice. The result of the examination were that the earthenware shreds, mga basag na palayok, were not from rice. Hindi pala rice ang unang niluto doon. Used to cook rice were not from rice pots used to cook rice. Instead, they were used for cooking starchy vegetables such as yarrow, yams, and more. So nauna pala ay mga root crops. Yun ang kanilang paniwala before rice. So now no rice yet, wala pang only rice. It shows that during pre-colonial times, bago pa masakop ng Spaniards ang Pilipinas, the people of Ifugao used a wide range of food resources that didn't include rice. So may collaboration. They cultivated starchy vegetables and domesticated animals like pigs, water buffalo, and chicken. They most likely kept a relationship between neighboring communities to hunt in order to obtain their protein, while at the same time clearing land to grow their crops. These pieces of evidence support the idea that early people in Ifugao were able to thrive without rice agriculture or intensive agriculture in general up until the point of colonization, pagdating ng mga Kastila, when population densities heightened, dumami ng mga tao, suggesting a later model for the emergence of intensive agriculture. So, yan naman ay natural na proseso. Kung kukonti pa tao, so there will be less demand for food, probably present nga sa kanilang surroundings, sa forest, pero nung unti-unting nagkakaroon na ng explosion sa dami ng mga tao during that time, there is a need for a greater volume of food. So, balikan ko ulit ito. Ito yung mga lumang mga palayok. Magaganda na, may mga design na. Nakita ito sa Kalinga. Merong takip, ito maganda, storage vessel. So, talagang meron ng civilization bago pa yung tinatawag na colonial period, bago pa dumating ang mga Kastila. So, ito'y isa pa rin sa mga debate na sinasabing hindi mga Kastila ang nag-introduce ng civilization sa Pilipinas, but rather there were already civilization na nangyayari sa Pilipinas even before the Spaniards, the colonizers came. So taro and yam to rice. Ngayon, saan pumasok ang rice? The process of growing taro is not labor-intensive and could have easily replaced rice as a main carbohydrate. Mas madali nga magtanim ng gabi tsaka ng mga kamote kaysa sa rice. Planting and farming taro is a ceremonial process and has religious significance. So ginagamit yan sa kanilang paniwala sa Diyos. In the Central Cordillera region, taro was a favored crop because of its low population density. It is possible that there was not much population pressure in the Cordillera before the rise of colonialism, and that taro and other root vegetables like sweet potato could have supported the populations present at that time. It is a possibility that a population density increased as a result of Spanish arrival or after the arrival of lowland groups. There was a change to wet rice agriculture. Yun pala ang possible dahilan ay again is the increase in population. So in traditional taro and yam have to be supported. Dapat madagdagan ng other type of food which is yun nga ang rice. So napapansin nyo ba na ang population increase at saka ang lifestyle ng mga tao ay merong direct na relationship. So mapapansin nyo na habang dumadami ang tao, nagbabago ang method, nagbabago ang need for types of crops. Kaya kanina na pag-usapan natin yung biotechnology. Na ano na yan na isip na ng mga ekonomista na if the present crop production rate natin ang ating pagbabasihan by 2050, sabi nila by 2050 kinakailangang yung current production rate natin ng food should be increased by 70% para mapakain mo yung future population by 2050. Di ba? Napag-usapan natin last time yan. So ngayon ay kinakailangang mag-isip ang mga tao at yan ay nasa balikat ng mga siyentista. Kaya pumasok yung biotechnology kung saan efficiency ng food production, no? Lalo na yung it should be better breeds, tapos makokontrol mo by itself mismo noong organism na yon or nung variety na yon yung pest and diseases, mas nutritious kung animals yan, mas madaling ma-harvest. Dati yung chicken 45 days, ngayon down to 38. Meron pang mga modern farms down to 28. Napababa ng pababa nila because they were able to develop high-yielding meat ng mga new breeds of chicken and even other animals. So now we are probably settling down on kailan dumating ang rice sa Pilipinas. Rice continue to hold important cultural value in the Philippines today. Urban legends about rice including the story Alamat ng Palay, cherish rice as a gift of life and attribute it to keeping Filipinos grounded, healthy, and fed. In the past, rice was taught as a prestige food and was only made in small quantities for spiritual rituals. Because of this, it is believed that rice was reserved for only the chiefs or elite members of the tribe and was a main factor in establishing social stratification and geographic differentiation. Nung una, yung binasa kong iyon, sinasabing itong rice has a higher value. In fact, kung kumakain ka ng rice, you belong to the upper society. Mga datu, probably ang kinakain ng mga poor, yung parentaro anyam. So reserve yan sa mga chieftains, mga mayayaman ng araw, yung mga datu. Kung doon sa parte ng Ifugao, Benguet na yan. Noong Sabado may nag-interview sa akin isang estudyante naman siya sa UST. Nag-refer isa ring estudyante ko ngayon. I don't know, Diloy, kung sa inyong kung sa inyong section. in-interview ako tungkol sa rice growing doon sa Cordilleras and Benguet. Tinatanong niya kung sa tingin ba ay kinakailangang palitan o i-improve ang practices ng traditional farming, lalo na yung mga varieties of rice. No? Sabi ko, dapat wag, para ma-retain natin yung kultura at saka yung old varieties ng rice. Kasi kung food lang naman ang problema, so bigyan na lang natin ng mga commercial rice. But once you introduce a new varieties of rice doon sa kanila, eventually they would compare na mas maganda nga pala ito, mas maraming maha-harvest, and economically they will ship at iiwanan nila yung kanilang old ways of life. So sila ngayon ay nagdi-design, yung mga estudyanteng ito, ng isang community kung saan itong mga indigenous people na known for practicing yung mga traditional rice farming, igagawa daw nila ng design kung saan mapapractice pa rin, like yung rice terraces, even sabi nila pati yung design ng mga housing project ay built according to the original design and tradition noong mga indigenous people. No? So, kakatuwa yung mga bata ngayon. Naiisip pa yun. After the arrival of the Spanish and the plow technology, yung araro, they brought with them, dinala rito yung araro, kasi dati siyempre, malamang ang ginagamit ay stick. No, naabutan ko pa yan yung kapag nagtatanim ng palay, kawayan, tunutulusin yung dulo, yun yung kanilang pang-cultivate. No? Tapos, merong yung taas niya, parang slot siya na kapag itinutusok mo, nagka-create ng sound. So, malalaman mo kung ang inutusan mo ay nagtatrabaho dahil parang pumapalakpak yung kawayan. Ayan. Siguro pang rin yun, pang alis ng pagod. Maybe there is a rhythm there. Basta inabutan ko pa yun. Nakalimutan ko ng tawag doon. So, hindi pa naman ako ganun katanda. Hindi naman prehistoric yun. Dito sa Cavite kasi noon, inabot ko yung panahon where there is still farmlands na ang tawag natin ay sahod ulan, umaasa sa patak ng ulan. So merong season ng pagtatanim ng palay dito. No? Asaro lang ang ginagamit or Carabao drone na mga araro. Yan. So magtatanim, and basically nung panahon na yun, ang ani ay hindi masyadong ang ibinebenta ang bigas o palay. They were stored by the family. No? Uso noong araw yung malaking we call it balaong. So this is made of kawayan na slots, parang ginawang malaking drum. No? Malaki sa drum. Doon ilalagay yung palay. No? Hindi bigas, palay. And then, kapag kailangan mo ng palay, you get the lusong. Yung yung binabayo. Nakakita pa kayo sa picture niyan. At doon, kung siguro yung isasaing mo for the next 3 days, pwede ka mag-prepare na magbayo. Alisin mo yung mga ipan niyan at then you magsasaing ka. Ganon. No? And then yung iyong paano hihiwala yung mga balat niya. No? May style doon. No? Meron kang hawak na bilao at doon sa baba, unti-unti mong ihuho yung iyong binayo so that yung chop o yung mga ipa ay ipapawid ng hangin. Kaya tiyempo dapat may hangin para kasi mas mabigat siyempre yung bigas kaysa lang sa ipa, magkakahiwalay sila. So ganun, naabutan ko yung mga ganung panahon. It was so nice to remember. And then there were times na it becomes a tradition, magtatanim noong palay na malagkit, no? At kapag bago siya mag-mature, harvestin and then i-roast yun. Then again, goes under doon sa babayuhin. And you have the pinipig. It's a tradition na tuwing sa gabi ay marinig mo pa may nagbabayo sa pinipig. Mabangong rice yun. And then lalagyan ng buko, mura, tsaka gata. And then you have the party sa gabi. Nakakatuwa mga alalahanin. But that was part of the rice tradition. Eventually, rice was no longer a prestige product or a seasonal offering and instead was grown all year round. And by the 19th century, rice surpluses allowed for the product to be exported. Nag-export tayo dati ng rice but not now. Now, further sa development ng Philippine agriculture, traces of modern Philippine agriculture became most visible to the outside world at the height of the Spanish regime when industries were encouraged and developed and supplied the major needs of the colonizer Spain and other European consumers for tobacco, sugar, and abaca. Ayan nga, papasok na ngayon dito na dahil tayo i-colonize, under tayo nitong mga mananakop na ito, sila ay ginawa tayong malaking farm. Nagpapatanim ng maraming tubo para makapag-produce ng sugar, tobacco, kasi ang tobacco ay siyempre for the cigarettes, dadalhin yan doon sa Europe, sa Spain and other countries there, even abaca. Yung abaca is also known as Manila hemp. Kasi ang ganda ng fiber niyan and they were later turned into fabrics and whatever products na made of abaca. Dito tinatanim yung mga yan. And what happened, kung napansin nyo sa unang kwento ko sa inyo, yung mga empires and regime, ganun din dito ang nangyari. Yung there is a greater need ngayon ng mga agricultural workforce or laborers. Kasi may quota. Barko ang sasakyan yan para ipadala. So they need a large tract of land para sa pagtatanim. Hindi pwedeng 1 hektarya lang. Kailangan pag kinarga mo sa barko, puno. So dapat maramihan, asyenda. So ngayon, itong mga Espanyol ay nagtayo ng malalaking farm. Kung sugarcane, kinakailangan ma-process muna yan, tinatawag na central, kung saan yung inaaning yung tubo, dadalhin doon, ipipress, kukuha yung katas, pa-process, ilulutuin to produce the sugar. Yung tobacco naman, tutuyuin yan, probably i-export yan ng hindi pa siya finished product, as well as abaca. Doon na siguro gagawin ang finished product sa destination. Kaya mapakalaking farm. At ang mga tao noon ay sa farm nagtatrabaho and they practically do not own the land. It is the hacienderos. So they were given an ample amount of payment, wages, na hindi enough for them to live a life na with dignity. Kaya diyan nagsimula ang kaisipan na mahihirap ang mga farmer. And then, moving forward, in June 12, 1898, noong ang Pilipinas ay magdeklara na ng independence. Tagal na yan, 400 years. 300 years from the hands of our colonizer, the Spaniards. 1898, tayo ay nagkaroon ng independence, si Emilio Aguinaldo, and then at that time din, sabay na establish ang Department of Agriculture and Manufacturing. So DAM or DAM was created through Presidential Proclamation on June 23, 1898. So kasabay noong nakadrawing na yan, dati yan ay nasa 5 piso yung drawing na yan, nagwawagayway si Aguinaldo. Yun ang drawing sa pera noon. So sabay din na na-create ang Department of Agriculture. And ayan, yung lumang dyaryo, June, napakatagal nitong dyaryo ito, kaya isinama ko rito. Okay? At ang unang naging sekretaryo ng Agriculture ay si Jose Alejandrino noong hindi siya ang kaunahan, pero noong panahong 1898 ay siya ang secretary. First secretary ng Department of Agriculture. And by 1901, a policy of diversification was adopted under American. Kasi ito panahon na Amerikano naman ang sumakop sa atin. The Insular Bureau of Agriculture, Insular Bureau of Agriculture was then created under the Department of Interior through Act 271, 1901. Tapos ng 1917, daw itong may bigutilyong ito ay si Secretary Galicano Apasible, 1917 to 1921. Siya naman ang Secretary of Agriculture doon. Dito sa Manila, tapat ng PGH, anong ko lang nalaman, merong kalyero na Apasible. So, yung pala ay named after Secretary Galicano Apasible. Tingnan nyo yung pera noon. Si Apolinario Mabini at 1 peso. Baka yung 1 peso ngayon ay equivalent to 100 pesos ang value. The Philippine Islands. Siguro kung meron kang 1 peso ngayon na ganyan, mahal na ang bibilhin sa iyo because yung mga nangongolekta niyan old coins, old paper bills. So fast forward na tayo to the present day, panahon ni Duterte, status of Philippine agriculture, and I think I'll have to end here. Susunod natin sa susunod na meeting yung status because now it is a different story. Present, kinakailangan andito na tayo. Maraming problema na ating kakaharapin despite the how many years nakadaan ang agriculture sa Pilipinas, kahit matanda na at nauna pang ma-establish yung industry ng agriculture, ay marami tayong mga naririnig na mga komentaryo na ang agriculture sa Pilipinas ay naiiwanan. Hindi enough. At kung ikukumpara sa ibang bansa, lalo nang tayo ay hindi tayo gaanong kagalingan sa agriculture. And ito yung magiging isa sa mga dapat nating mapag-usapan because now we are part of this. This is no longer history. This is the present. This is you. Kayo itong mga estudyante ngayon who will be greatly affected now and in the near future. Magiging anak nyo, apo, will be greatly affected by today's status of Philippine agriculture. So that will be reserved for the next meeting. So this is the end of the part 2 ng ating lecture on the history of agriculture pertaining to the ancient history, the world agriculture, and then the Philippine agriculture, the past, and next week will be the present. All right, so I will stop recording. It's 8:55. Okay, how many are there? 35 people. Meron ba kayong question? For the meantime, there are still around 5 minutes to entertain some questions. And again, maybe mamaya ay kapag na-process ko na itong video na ito, recording, I will post it again. And expect there will be some, maybe a quiz, a short quiz just to test your understanding. Merong kaninang nagsabi, naka-schedule for vaccination, swab test. So, ano nyo na lang siya, bigyan nyo na lang ng advice na, again, I will be posting this sa YouTube naman to. You can always go back and watch. Si Ruth Jean Adobas, may questions, Ruth?
Sir, yung mga yung mga engineered plants or yung mga transgenic, sir, na mga crops, applicable po ba siya sa mga under countries given na hindi yung matatabunan yung culture tsaka yung maapektuhan din yung economy if mangyayari man yan in the future?
Yeah, so you are talking about siyempre mga dalawang i-close mo na Ruth ang iyong pipid dito. So ang question ni Ruth to rephrase or paraphrase kung di masyadong narinig ng iba. She's referring to the biotechnology, the new agriculture. Kasi tinatanong niya kung applicable ba ito sa mga countries na sila ay nagpa-practice pa rin noong mga old practices. Minsan ay related sa kanilang culture, belief, no? Hindi ba matatabunan at masisira ang kanilang tradisyon just for the sake ng efficiency at ng food security na ng isang bansa, at minsan ito ay sa buong mundo. Yan ang question, ano? At tama ang obserbasyon niya. Magkakaroon ng disruption sa mga kultura, mga paniwala. Kaya nga ito'y sa inyong mga young people ay kinakailangan ma-open up natin. Kasi this should be balanced. No? This should be something na merong desisyon tayo dito. Knowing that this will affect yung identity ng isang kultura, ng isang bansa. And ang mahirap niyan, hindi natin siya masabi na hindi maganda o maganda. Palaging mayroong pros and cons. That's why if you will look at the strategy ng gobyerno, mapapansin mo ngayon doon sa Department of Agriculture na kanilang future plans and current and future plans, nakalagay na dyan yung modern farming, the agriculture 4.0, the new agricultural revolution using the artificial intelligence, yung breeding, yung biotechnology, ay it's debatable. No? Debatable siya in the sense na merong mga kontra sa ganyan kasi nga yung pansin nyo, masisira ang kultura. No? Sabi naman iba ay paano kung magkakaroon ng extreme demand, who will dictate ba kung tayo ay hunger ba, food security ba sa nakakarami, or yung tinatawag na tradition. My point of view dito ay ganito, no? Hindi kinakailangan lahat ay magkaroon itong tinatawag na, hindi lahat ng lugar ay magkaroon ng tinatawag na modern farming. It should be concentrated on selected areas kung saan designated siya na mag-produce ng food for food security purposes. At saka siya ay dapat, ang kanyang produce ay i-label as genetically engineered product. Kasi lagi pa rin dapat may choice ang mga tao kung ano ang kanyang i-consume. Either organic, either altered, yung biotechnology altered, or either traditional, yung mga old products. So kung sa tingin ko, kung yan ay matatag, lalo na yung nabanggit na ko sa inyo, yung sa Benguet and old practices, pwede yung magkaroon ng proper places. So yung sa lugar na yon, mataas pa dyan ang kultura, hayaan na sila doon. At dito na lang i-practice sa lowland kung saan nandito naman yung napakaluan pa naman lupa natin, hindi pa nasasakat. Diyan na lang practicein yan. But there should be regulation ng government. Kasi hanggang ngayon, yung argument ng ilang grupo, pagdating yan sa mga biotechnology, there is not yet enough evidence or probably hindi pa na gano'n napag-aralan ng mahabang panahon kung meron na siyang adverse effect sa human, sa tao na kakain yan, kasi you're altering the DNA of the organism. O kung sabihin man, hindi naman kinakain ng tao ang rice kasi yung corn, kasi may pakain, ang ginagamitan niya na yung feed supplements. So, sabi ng iba, kaso, yung pinapakain niyan, kakain din ng tao. Di pa natin alam kung mayroong adverse effect. So, tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Pero siyempre, dito sa Pilipinas, mayroong regulations yan. Pagdating sa product, at yan naman ay under ng Food and Drug. They have to be registered and tested there. And kailangan ng mga dokumentos. So, yung tanong ni Ruth Jean ay debatable. No exact answer dyan. So, ang akin lang dyan is it should be balanced. Dapat isipin din yung future, dapat isipin din. So maybe geographically, specific location ay practice yung old, tsaka may specific location, plus bigyan ng choice sa mga tao by proper labeling. Okay? Mayroon pa ba? At 9:02 na. Good question, good question. Another question? Kelvin, yes. Sige, Kelvin, go ahead.
Sir, na-curious lang po ako. Kailan po nagawa po yung hotdog? Like po yung processed meat po. Ganun po.
Ang hotdog ay hindi naman palagay ko lang. Yan ay malamang during the time nang dumating ang mga Amerikano na introduce. Kasi originally, hotdog, wala akong nakikitang ganyang sa history ng Pilipinas before the American came. Maybe during siguro sa panahon ng mga Kastila pala. Kasi meron ng mga terminologies like chorizo, yung chorizo at saka yung hotdog ay magkatulad ng itsura. Malamang yung chorizo ay panahon ng Kastila, pero yung hotdog, as the term hotdog, ay probably the hotdog today could be during the time of the American, when the American came. Yun ay hula ko lang kasi wala akong hard evidence yan. Pero paano na-create siya? Of course, dito sa modern world, yung meron kasing mga parts of animals na kinakatay na hindi siya specifically cold cuts. These are lahat ng mga hindi class A cuts, gigilingin, paghahalu-haluin, at yan ang gagawin. Pero merong economics dyan. Kasi kung purong karne yan, mahal papatak ang isang piraso. So meron tinatawag na mga extenders. Yung mga extenders, normally mga flour yan. So very small portion lang actually ang meat talaga dyan. That the taste is artificially produced. No? So may mga powder na inalagay. And you have the hot dog. So hindi talaga naman yan pure meat. Kasi malulugi ka. Tinuturo yan sa food technology natin. Extender ang tawag. Okay? Kelvin, nasagot ba yung tungkol sa hotdog?
Apo, thank you po, sir.
Another question? Last question. Last na lang. Para 9:06 na Gagay tayo pala hanggang 9 lang talaga. If none, let's call it a day. I hope you enjoy the the history, the brief history. Mabilis lang natin pinasadahan yung storya ngayon up to the modern times. Kaya yan ay importante ring balik-balikan natin bilang kayo mga young people that you know the history of agriculture. Because history ay sinasabay ng repeat itself. At nakikita nyo na yung how history has repeated. There is a pattern. Habang dumadami ang tao, there's a demand or food. At ang ayaw na ayaw kung mangyayari yung mag-agawan sa pagkain. Countries against countries because that would mean wars. So let's produce more food enough for ourselves so that there will be probably no wars. Not only food, water, energy, but let us pray that history does not repeat itself in our lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po.
Yes,